I feel proud, actually. I feel proudest.
The doctor who sparked global outrage by claiming to produce the world's first genetically modified babies faced his peers for the first time at this conference in Hong Kong.
As you can see, there's a big demand to know exactly what you did.
How you understand your responsibility to these children.
He was grilled by bioethicists, regulatory experts, and fellow doctors, but he remains sketchy on the details of his experiment.
I don't know how to answer this question from my eyes.
There has been a failure of self-regulation by the scientific community.
Shenzhen-based He Jinkui used a gene editing technology called CRISPR to engineer twin girls whose DNA was designed to resist the HIV infection.
The world has moved on to the stage for embryo gene editing. There will be someone somewhere who is doing this. If it's not me, it's someone else.
The news of the birth startled the scientific community.
The general feeling amongst the scientific community is that we shouldn't go ahead yet, but you went ahead without really discussing with people. That's how it seems.
I also consulted with several experts.
As someone who's been involved in the genesis of the CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing technology, I feel deeply disturbed. It's inappropriate and something that we had been working hard to avoid.
Why you choose to cross this line?
What is our responsibility as scientists and doctors?
May we know your future medical care plan for these babies?
How did you convince the parents?
Scientists here are worried about the safety of the CRISPR technology, and many cast doubt on whether He really did what he claims. His experiment would be banned in many places such as the US. For his part, He says he supports using gene editing for diseases and not for improving humans. He also claims that there is a second woman carrying a genetically modified baby in China.
Are there any current pregnancies with embryos that have been genome edited as part of your clinical trials?
There's another potential pregnancy.
Hello, Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who do rule well. Shalom to you of us who are hopeful. Shalom to the elect. Quick video. I came across this article while surfing the net. The headline reading, World's First Gene-Edited Children Living Normal Lives. Chinese Genetic Scientists. Courtesy of SputnikNews.com. For those not in the know, a Russian state-owned news agency and basically a radio broadcast service. Now, the reason why I wanted to go into this briefly is because, it started with the MSM's, mainstream media's recent reporting on China and its alleged use of a spy balloon. For those of you late to the supper table, I believe it's several to date. Allegedly. At first, I wasn't too keen on believing all of this. Well, we'll call it uproar, given the U.S.'s reputation of using propaganda, basically smear reputation tactics to control the narrative of why blood is being shed or should be shed, or why bloodshed is the go-to option, if you will, and to paint the overall perception of enemy combatants who they are engaged in conflict. If you've been paying attention, then you are well aware the U.S. is already at war with China as well as Russia by proxy via what's going on in the Ukraine conflict. Now we're finding out that these alleged, what I alluded to earlier is that the alleged spy balloons, several allegedly, have been in use since the Trump administration, unbeknownst to the then commander-in-chief himself. Some analysts are now saying if this isn't fear-mongering on America's part or using the talk of UFOs and what could be as a distraction, then this has to be the U.S. suffering from itchy trigger fingers, i.e. preparing for the worst given what they know to be inevitable, war coming down the turnpike to western shores. Isaiah 47:1 comes to mind. It says this, "Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon." A virgin daughter as in not an actual daughter, but the spirit of Babylon, which is America, and Esau, Edom. Both are interchangeable. here in this verse. Virgin also because up until this point, America has remained uncaptured by any foreign power. Come down, meaning America will be humbled. You see that humbling taking place now. Sit in the dust, meaning Babylon is confused about her ensuing judgment. Sit on the ground, speaking to being brought to a lowest state. Sirach 11 and 4 through 5 is the precept there. There is no throne, meaning her military prowess and the exceptional ability to defend herself, just like the air of prominence will dissipate and be taken away. O daughter of the Chaldeans. Now, the Chaldeans known for their idolatry and the witchcraft. That is what that is speaking to. The same spirit that emanates from America today, aka Babylon the Great. For thou shalt not more be called tender and delicate. No longer called tender and delicate, meaning no longer will she be regarded as untouchable and to be dealt with carefully or with a hands-off approach, if you will. She is no more regarded as fragile. Inside joke. America knows what awaits her, cannot be avoided. In any event, the whole spy balloon scandal is not a part of China's usual MO. I always thought their approach myself to be a little more subtle than that. Never mind what the good brother Gabar Allah from the camp out here in Toronto pointed to. China's history with cyber attacks more fits their method of functioning. So when I see stories like this regarding gene editing, splicing, and the creating of a new mutations, Salakia, that's when my spidey sense starts to tingle, because China is infamous for its biowarfare programs, which they've boasted of repeatedly, for the record. The reason this story in particular should be a topic of interest is something that jumped out at me while I was skimming through the article. I'm going to go through it in its entirety now. It's pretty short, just a couple of paragraphs. So keeping in mind Jake's acute level of ADHD, they say it's about 8 minutes. I'm going to ask Baba Kasha that y'all bear with me. And the article reads, Moscow Sputnik, of course. The world's first gene-edited children are living normal and peaceful lives with their parents. Chinese genetic scientist He Jiankui told a Chinese newspaper on Tuesday. Pardon my Cantonese or Mandarin. I'm not the greatest at pronouncing, this gentleman's name in particular, so please forgive me. They have a normal, peaceful, and undisturbed life. This is their wish, and we should respect them, he said. The scientist noticed that he did not want the children to be bothered for the purpose of scientific research, adding that the happiness of the children and their families should come first. He added that after the children turned 18, wink, wink, they would decide for themselves whether to undergo medical examinations or not. Despite the fact that he claimed that the genes were edited, this is quote unquote edited successfully, and the children would be fully or partially immune to HIV. Now right here, several experts challenged the results of his studies and stated that the Chinese scientists created new mutations which might lead to HIV resistance, but might not. Yeah, that part. I wonder, what is he basing this, basing his results on, if he hasn't gone ahead and did any further testing or any research as to how their genes developed throughout the years. This is what I'm ascertaining from this article here, but what do I know? I'm just a humble follower of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. In any event, whenever I hear about any tinkering around with the HIV virus, which we know for a fact, first and foremost, to be a man-made disease manufactured to eradicate so-called people of color, I think there is enough evidence to date to suggest the next pandemic, or at least threat of a communicable disease outbreak, might be the flip to the very mutations spoken of here. On top of the fact that there have long been reports that suggest a link between the CV-19, smallpox, and polio vaccines possibly being responsible for or increasing the risk in contracting HIV, coupled with yet another HIV vaccine trial failing. I would put nothing past the elites who are responsible for unleashing these diseases to further control the body politic, which includes depopulation. That's fine if you don't agree, but the WHO, the World Health Organization, just released a warning stating the bird flu virus, if you will, might be back like it never left. And what is the US's response? Testing the first, remember the algorithm, vaccines, plural, on poultry is one option. Now, who's up for some Popeyes? And you know, that's the spirit working. If you can hear all the noise in the background, you know what happens when the spirit starts to work. The demons come out. And for those of you who doubt what I said regarding HIV being created to kill so-called black and brown people, never mind the expose being all over the net and YouTube. If you take a look at the World Fact Book online, which is a direct link to the CIA.gov website, you can see for yourself what people are the most affected to date. Now, reading on in the article, I'll pick up here. After his release from prison in April 2022, Jiankui set up a new laboratory in Beijing to develop affordable gene therapy for rare genetic diseases, such as Duchenne muscular dystrophy. What I will say is that sounds like somebody was awarded for taking one for the team. In any event, I have a long-term vision, which is that each of us should be free from inherited diseases, he said. You know what comes to mind there? All these steps and efforts being made to solidify the reasons and why the populace should engage transhumanism is the best way to actually coin my thoughts as when I'm going through this article here. In any event, let's just read on. The scientist currently plans to register a nonprofit research organization called the Beijing Institute for Rare Disease Research, the newspaper reported. In November 2018, he announced the birth of two babies whose DNA had been modified so that they can develop immunity to HIV infection. A third baby was born a year later. The scientist was criticized by the scientific community, and the Chinese authorities charged him with illegal medical practice. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison and fined 3 million won. That's about $422,000 USD. Now, I mean, I've pretty much said what I had to say regarding that. Let's go into why we're really here, and that's how the scripture applies and how this can be filtered through it. I'm gonna point you to some precepts as well, which are pretty self-explanatory, and then we'll close out. Let's do that. The first I think we should go to is Ecclesiastes 7 and 13. And it says this: consider the work of the Most High, for who can make that straight which he hath made crooked? Which essentially speaks to Esau and saying he cannot be sanctified. Pursuant to Ecclesiastes 1 and 15, what is missing cannot be counted. Esau cannot be made holy. Esau cannot repent. That's Hebrews 12 and 16 down. He cannot be saved. Roughly paraphrasing Proverbs 16 and 4, Esau, whom the Bible names the wicked, was made for the day of evil, meaning ultimately he was created for Yahweh's pleasure to carry out his will and judgments. Job 21 and 30, that the wicked is reserved to the day of destruction. They shall be brought forth to the day of wrath. These games that the elite and their minions play on his own and on their own and on the rest of humanity will be answered in due time. The Hegelian dialectics of creating diseases like HIV, unleashing it on the populace, pretending to be sympathetic to the damage it creates, it spreads, the fears shared, and of course the public outcry, and then going so far as pretending to address the problem by carrying out vaccine trials they know will fail because finding a cure does nothing for their bottom line. Besides, who creates a safe they can't open or lock, for that matter, or a lock they don't have a key for? Newsflash, they already have a cure. They've always had it. But just like the search for a cure for cancer, the money is not in the cure now, is it? It's in the research, the treatment, and the $6,000 placebo, i.e. cancer medication. i.e. the temporary fix. The truth is the sheeple have been conditioned to accept the band-aid on a bullet wound as a solution. And through this, however, despite, Yahweh's will be done. It is Yahweh who created Esau to carry out his judgments. Psalm 17 and 13 comes to mind, and it says this: Arise, O Yahweh, disappoint him, speaking to Esau, starting with the top banking families on down. Cast him down, deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy what? Thy sword. So-called white man, the white supremacy, the white establishment is Yahweh's sword on humanity, and a whipping stick, especially for Israel, meaning an instrument of judgment and correction, if you will, for we so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Indians who are in the faith, and those who share the faith alike, and those outside of the faith, along with the other nations. But the point I needed to make was, regardless of the chaos Esau creates, the chaos that we can see through as being of the hopeful elect, and the chaos that he creates for those that are the 2/3, and what he says is intent to so order, he will be recompensed by Yahweh's hand, just as the Lord uses him to punish us. Job 12 and 16, the deceived and the deceiver are his. The deceived pertaining to those who trust in Esau, the white establishment, so you can understand, to provide relief from a disease that the elite of Esau himself has created. And then there's the deceiver, speaking of Esau himself, whom the Lord power Yahweh set up, starting from the top banking families and the elite globalists on down, to beguile and to mislead the other nations of the earth. Most importantly, we Hebrew Israelites, as I alluded to earlier, who will not heed the Lord's cause, so that the will of the Lord himself would be done, are his. Other scriptures that come to mind is Ezekiel, the 28th chapter, speaking to Esau's God complex. Transhumanism, which I referenced earlier, the desire to be immortal and having superhuman abilities at the forefront, which is where the MOTB, the mark of the beast, comes into play. Esau wants to control. He just wants total control over all the nations. That is his end goal here, so he can exalt godlike power over all humanity. Again, starting first and foremost with we Hebrew Israelites, in all facets of industry, in all areas of government, religion, and bringing to pass his brainchild, the digital monetary system. 2 Thessalonians, the 2nd chapter, 4th verse is a good precept here. And as of late, I've been just jumping to precepts, and because I want to give you the opportunity to look at them yourselves. For those who can't see it, then I'm always here. I'm always present. I do have a comment board, and there is a way that we can actually, you can come back and you can pose questions that you might not understand regarding the scriptures. This is not a one-way conversation. This is what we are here for. Now, I'll say this: Esau's panties are all in a bunch because immortality belongs to Jake. We Israelites, starting with the elect, and I'm saying that in regards to 2nd Ezra 8 and 54 comes to mind. Bear with me here. And it says this: sorrows are past, and in the end is shewed the treasure of immortality. Ergo, we learn of regaining our immortality and its gifts. Israel was not made to die, by the way. Wisdom of Solomon 2 and 23. For Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, Rakah Kodash created man to be immortal and made him to be an image of his own eternity. Coming back into our godhood starts with having the knowledge and the understanding of this truth, and that's what Esau has been fighting against. This is what has him in an uproar. He knows that we are finally coming back into this knowledge, and once we have that knowledge, what happens to his grip of power? You be the judge. It's unfolding in front of your very eyes. 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, also comes to mind. Verse 46. And thou, Asia, speaking to China and Japan, whose biblical names are Moab and Ammon. China properly, Moab being the more powerful of the two nations. And Asia, of course, also speaking to the Koreas, North and South, as well as the Taiwanese even, who are a U.S. ally, that are partaker of the hope of Babylon. Now, the hope of Babylon is money-making, i.e. capitalism and land-taking, as of late anyways. Asia's hope is to build an empire that eclipses even America in power, becoming the next superpower to rule. Geopolitically, it is China that is keeping the American, i.e. Babylon's economy afloat, and art the glory of her person. Verse 47, woe be unto thee, thou wretch, meaning Asia, starting with China, will taste destruction and deep distress for becoming just like America. I'm sure that this is something that those who are traditional in the culture will tell you themselves, that the biggest mistake they ever made was trying to position themselves as Americans, mimicking its practices in business for the purpose of this discussion anyways. Biowarfare, bioterrorism, cyber warfare, which will essentially help to cripple the American economy, holding the people hostage, and not to mention imitating Babylon's vanity-driven lifestyle, because of what? Thou hast made thyself like unto her, and hast decked thy daughters in whoredom, that they might please and glory in thy lovers. Esau, as well as the other nations, nowadays everything is made in China, which have always desired to commit whoredom with thee, likened to whoredom because all the great merchants of the earth are in bed with America. Revelation, the 18th chapter, also coming to mind there. The last point, an important one to be made, is sickness and disease come from our sins committed in this life and the past, which, given the plethora of precepts, could easily turn into its own lesson. For those of you who take notes, James 5 and 13 on down, Sirach 18 and 21, Sirach 38 and 9, Sirach 39 and 14. John 5 and 14 is an important one, where Yahushua says, go forth and sin no more, essentially proving sin is the cause of disease, infirmities, and ailments. Psalm 32, Psalm 91 and 10, Psalm 103, 1 through 3, I believe, Psalm 107 and 17, and then 19 through 21, I believe. Jeremiah 33 and 6 is another. Exodus 15 and 26, Exodus 23 and 25. I'm just skimming through some notes. Micah 6 and 13. For those of you, again, who take notes, all good precepts. Quickly, the word disease in the etymology dictionary is defined as discomfort, inconvenience, distress, trouble, from Old French disease, lack, want, discomfort, distress, trouble, misfortune, disease, sickness, from des, without, away, see dis, a's, ease, restricted pathological sense of sickness, illness. In English, emerged by late 14th century. The word still sometimes was used in its literal sense early 17th century, and was somewhat revived 20th century, usually with a hyphen, dis-ease. Ergo, as our elder Jeremiah brought out from, again, from here in the camp in Toronto, double honors to you, elder. The only way to find ease and comfort starts with Yahushua and this truth, which we know to be the, wait for it, the comforter. Discomfort, the comforter, the Ruach HaKodesh, the Holy Spirit. John 14 and 14 on down is one go-to there. So let's close with this. Let's go to Psalm 60 and 8. Also Psalm 108 and 9 in the scriptures, speaking to Yahweh's plan for Moab and Esau and all this madness. And it reads, Moab, again, the so-called Chinese, so you can understand, who are not the next empire to rule contrary to popular belief. That rule is reserved for we Israelites. 2nd Ezra 6 and 9 is a precept there, and that speaks to Israelites scattered in every nation. It does not matter if they are a people of color, or if they look white, or if they look so-called Asian. If you were scattered there and you have that spirit, you believe and accept this truth and see this truth for what it really is, then you may be a part of that election. Is my being the most high power, Yahweh. Again, Moab is my washpot. Over Edom will I cast out my shoe, meaning Yahweh will use China to clean America up, i.e. Babylon the Great, the nation of Esau, Edom, the so-called white establishment who sits in the power seat. He's doing it now with China and their economy gaining on the lead of world economic status, and will follow up with those hypersonic and intercontinental ballistic nuclear missiles. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Philistia, speaking to the so-called Africans, the biblical Hamites, triumphed thou because of me. Speaking to Yahweh, giving them prosperity, not them obtaining it on their own merit. That is not how this works. Yahweh is in control of everything. It is he who gives wealth and gives prosperity, and at the same time can break you down to the very last compound if he so wills it. Africa is finding its success in China, buying up its land and lending it its economic support. Verse 9 or verse 10, depending upon where you're reading from. Who will bring me into the strong city? Who will lead me into Edom? Of course, Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So stay strong, Yasharallah. Stay circumspect. The signs are there. Prophecy is definitely coming to pass. Full-scale war is definitely headed our way. The beast system, everything going digital is being implemented as we speak. Fast and pray, Israel, pray without ceasing. We are almost home, and the water for bearing with me. I'm still a little under the weather, but the show must go on. With that, I'll say, Call Halal Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash, through the power and spirit. I hope you were edified. Double honors unto the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who teach us 100% truth and rule well. Salutations to the hopeful elect. Remember, no test, no jab, and damn sure, don't take that C to the H to the I to the pizzle. Shalom, Yasharallah. Shalom to the elect.